In this first lesson, we're going to talk about Liongard's advanced automated documentation. You see, Liongard gathers deep configuration data from your managed customer environments systems, from the cloud down to the endpoint. And all of this rich, deep configuration data can be used to track configuration changes, set up alerts, and create meaningful dashboards or reports. Now, here I am in Liongard's home screen. And from here, we can take a look at this rich and deep configuration data from a couple of different perspectives. One, through the customer environment perspective, and two, through the individual system perspective. Let's first talk about your managed customer environments. And I'm going to select Contoso Nation. And if you're in Liongard, go ahead and click into any customer environment. Now, here we are in the single environment dashboard for my Contoso Nation customer environment. I have a list of all of the systems that I am managing for this customer, in this case 82. I also have a view into the changes that have been detected for this customer, and we can go through 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, all up to 18 months of a historical timeline of changes. And I can also look at the total open alerts that have been detected from that automated data for this customer environment. Let's stick to our systems, and over on the left, I can sort by systems through cloud, network, apps and services, and endpoint categories. So let's go back up to our cloud and let's look at our internet domain and DNS system inspectors. Now, this screen just simply provides me a customizable overview into some of the critical data points for each of these systems that I manage. For instance, for contosoedu.com, I chose to display SPF and DMARC records, days until expiration, what the registrar is, DMARC summary, MX record summary, so on and so forth. I customize those metrics or data points as I see over up on the right hand side once I click on metrics. Simply because when I am looking at a customer environment and I scroll down to my internet domain DNS inspector, this is some of the most critical data that I want to have a look at. Now, I can click into a specific inspector, and now that brings me into this inspector's system details page. Now, from here, I have a much more detailed view into the configuration state for my internet domain DNS inspector for contosoedu.com. Over on the overview side, I have information relating to this domain's critical details, such as when it was registered, when it expires, who is registered for, email security, whether SPF, DKIM, DMARC records are found and are they valid, email security, DNS, more details into my DNS records, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC health. Now, over up on the top side of this system details page, I have a historical timeline that shows me what the state of this inspector's configuration looked like for that specific date. I can click into a calendar point and travel to that date, or again, just scroll back and forth to see what that configuration looked like on that date. So if I click here on Saturday, December 21st, I will see some of the data that will show up for this specific system on that specific date. We're going to dive into change detections later, but just so that you know, every time you see a delta into one of these date entries, it means that a change was detected. And over on the left-hand side, I can see what that change was. If it gives me a green underlined data point, that means that a data point was introduced. And if it's red, it means that something was removed. Now let's go back into our system details page over on the left-hand side. And in every single system inspector overview screen, you will notice a Data Print Explorer tab all the way on the end. And this is very important for us to understand Liongard's automated documentation. You see, Liongard's inspectors return data from those systems in what we call a data print. And a data print is just a term that we use to describe the JSON data file that is returned to those system inspectors. You can look at the data print as a table, or you can look at it as a traditional tree format. And within all of these objects and arrays are all of the data points that you see across the platform, whether in an overview table or on your environment screen, or in the form of change detections, or in your alert description, so on and so forth. Now, Liongard creates queries into that data print, which we call metrics. Over on the left-hand side, you can take a look at all of the metrics or queries that have been written to extract information from this data print for each system inspector. So, for example, you see that for this inspector, there are 50 metrics that Liongard is gathering data from. These metrics can query for data such as days until expiration and return a corresponding value, list of subdomains, SPF, all statements exist on domain values, admin contact, registrar. Again, any data point that you see in Liongard is a metric or query into that data print. Let's dig in a little further. If I go to the admin metrics screen, I have a view into all of the metrics that are querying into all of the data prints across all of the systems that I manage. You see that here I have 2,658 metrics in my Liongard instance. Now, each inspector comes with a number of metrics that are already baked into the Liongard platform to query those data prints for those different system inspectors. Under the created by column, I can type Liongard, and in that way I can filter for all of the metrics that Liongard has for each of its inspectors. And again, these are metrics that are already baked into the platform. You don't have to do anything, they're there. And let's, for example, filter for the internet domain inspectors that Liongard has created for that specific inspector. Now, let's take a deeper look. For instance, this metric up here, internet domain DNS, DMARC single record validation. I can click on display, and what that does is that allows that metric to be displayed all over the platform. If I want Liongard to identify changes to the threshold that I set for that metric, I can select that, and in that way, look at which of those metrics are enabled. And then here is the query, the James path query that is written for that specific metric. Now, these are all Liongard metrics, but as you'll see, if I remove all of these filters, you as a user can create your own metric. So if you're following along, take a moment to pause this video, go over to your admin metrics screen and filter through various inspectors and take a look at which metrics you may have not realized that were present in your Liongard instance. Check to see if those are set to display or if they are set to filter for change detection so that changes identified for that query can be surfaced in your Liongard environments. Now, if we go back home, let's just recap briefly. So again, Liongard automates your documentation by giving you a centralized view into all of the rich, deep configuration data across all of the systems that you manage within one centralized dashboard. Now, the beauty of Liongard's advanced automated documentation is that you can also push Liongard's deep configuration data into other platforms. If we go over to admin, integrations, you'll have a view into some of the platforms that we integrate with. Hoodoo, IT Glue, ConnectWise, Halo PSA, so on and so forth. And by mapping those fields in Liongard to those in your integrations, IT Glue, for example, you're then able to do things like push data into flexible assets in IT Glue or into specific core asset configurations in Liongard. So by leveraging Liongard's advanced automated documentation in your integrations, you can ensure that your documentation is accurate and up to date, across all of the systems that you use. Now, again, we're not going to dive into setting up these integrations, more resources on that attached below, but our best practice here is to leverage those integrations.